Hi everybody, welcome back to another video, live from quarantine for me. This is day, uh, like 10 of my isolation quarantine. I meant to put up a video as an update earlier, however, as you can probably guess by the fact I'm in isolated quarantine and I'm coming to you with as little editing as I can possibly do, I had / have suspected COVID-19. Slash that word we can't say. Whatever. I don't make money on YouTube's. There we go. So this happened not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. I kind of very rapidly became symptomatic. I mean, literally every symptom I had it. Went to the ER, and they did not have the ability to test me. I wasn't too surprised, sadly. Because of that, they basically sent me home with a prescription for like max strength Tylenol, because fun fact, NSAIDs actually interfere with your body's ability to make antibodies, so they don't recommend you use NSAIDs. Instead, take something like an analgesic like Tylenol, but they basically sent me home with what they were calling viral syndrome, because they were like, you're negative for the flu, you're negative for strep, like we can't necessarily diagnose you exactly with COVID because we can't officially test you for COVID. So this is the best we can do. It's essentially, I'm going home with suspected COVID, was told 14 days total isolation, quarantine. So I have not left this room since that Sunday. Let me tell you, I'm going a little insane by this point, if only because it took about a week for me to feel better. The unfortunate side of this virus is that it often comes back to backhand you with a second round, hence we are finishing out the quarantine, full 14 days. I did go take a test, or give a swabbing for a test. I've not yet gotten my results. I've called the doctor's office. I've been told the labs are essentially overwhelmed and all test results have been backed up. I'm like, I'm probably not going to get these test results until I'm done with my 14 days. It's very frustrating. I cannot work because I don't have my work computer, because it had to go back to my work for a problem, and obviously nobody could come here because it was essentially a quarantine zone. I wouldn't be able to touch the computer because it's contaminated. It's been a slight mess. But I did want to give you that update and also give you basically what's I read in February. I was hoping to make more than, I'm sorry, what I read in March. Wow, my brain is dead. I meant to give you more than just my February wrap up, but COVID being COVID, I don't have access to anything here but my laptop. I'm lucky even in that. This is what we're gonna get. And again, this is all gonna be basically completely unedited because I don't feel like doing editing. So the first book I read was All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in something that I believe is called the Murderbot Diaries series. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. It's very entertaining. It's a great AI main character. It had been sitting in my digital TBR for a while, so it's kind of about time that I read it. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. I read Denali's Howl, The Deadliest Climbing Disaster on America's Wildest Peak by Andy Hall. Continuing in my strange train of being fascinated by mountain climbing disasters. Don't ask, I don't know. I'm just weirdly obsessed. I blame the movie Everest. I still could easily do like a lecture on that movie and why it's actually secretly near brilliant at times. This is about a climbing disaster that happened in the 1960s, late 1960s. Denali is the highest peak in North America. It is in Alaska. Originally called Denali, was briefly called, not even briefly, for a good while, was called Mount McKinley because white people, and then it was, I do believe now it is officially changed back to Denali, and even so, I would never call it Mount McKinley because his name is Denali, and that sounds better anyway. It was a really wild storm where this climbing group got stuck in, and apparently the storm raged for like 7 days. And most of the people in this climbing expedition ended up dead on the mountain. Some of them they couldn't even ever find. Really good, interesting take on the story because Andy Hall, his father, was, I guess, like the superintendent of Denali Park. So he was kind of in charge of having to deal with what could be done with rescue efforts to a degree. So he had a very personal connection to this story. Definitely recommend if you're weirdly into this morbid topic that I'm apparently into. I read an arc of Elysium Girls by Kate Pentecost. Now, I gave this 3 stars out of 5 because I'd essentially heard that this was like witchy girl gang Dust Bowl inspired fantasy. I mean, that just sounded so cool. I was down for it. And it was okay. I love the concept. I think the issue I had with the book was it often felt like it was just trying to check boxes, like, yep, we've now included this, this, and this, and there wasn't anything that really, like, you know, grabbed me by the collar and was like, you're in love with me, like, you love me as a book. I was like, you're good. I don't have an urge to finish the series. If it is a series, I'm honestly not entirely sure. It could end up being a standalone. I never know by this point with YA. Things start as standalones and turn into entire series. Had bad memories of Torch Against the Night there. Okay, moving on. I read The Somme by Peter Hart. This is an incredible nonfiction book about the Battle for the Somme, which takes place in World War I. This was, it's sort of one of the infamous battles of World War I because kind of the catastrophe it was on the first day, and this is something I wanted a refresher on because when my boyfriend and I went to go see 1917, which is fabulous and a great movie, and I know nobody can go out to the theaters, but if you can stream it, recommend. It's gorgeous. They mentioned that one of the main characters fought at the Somme, and the other main characters like, holy crap, you know, you were at the Somme, like, what was it like? Tell me all this. And the character who was there is like, doesn't want to talk about it, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, no shit, he doesn't want to talk about it. The Somme was a fucking disaster. And like my boyfriend, like a lot of people here in the US, because we're not really educated on World War I, had no idea what the Somme was, and I was like, okay, how do I put this in terms of numbers? On the first day of the Somme, by like noon, it started at like 7 a.m. By like noon, there was like 30,000 casualties just on the side of the British, I think. It was truly a massacre for the British. It's often called Britain's Verdun. Verdun being one of those big famous battles of World War I, which just decimated a lot of the French army as they were under siege at this town of Verdun. Anyway, I really like this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is long. It is a pure nonfiction book. It is not trying to really be narrative in any way, but I think it gives you an idea of the scope of what was happening during this campaign, because the Somme lasted from July to November. It was a really long campaign. Not quite as long as Verdun, but a long campaign. And the casualties, I think Britain suffered like 1.2 million casualties or something like that. I mean, the casualty numbers are just huge for this campaign. But, so if you're into World War I history, I recommend. And finally, I read Chernobyl, A History of a Nuclear Catastrophe by Serhii Plokhy. I'm terribly sorry if I mispronounced that. I probably did. Because I will just forever say that Chernobyl was the best television that came out in 2019. I'm still obsessed with it in quarantine. I have now rewatched it, so yeah, I had to go listen to another book on the topic because of course. And yeah, I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I gave almost every book in here 4 to 5 stars, save for Elysium Girls, because I was just like, yeah, it's really good. So I did okay. I've heard you listen to a book for April, one that I literally started and finished today. Spoilers, it's about another, like, mountain climbing, hiking accident. I have a problem, okay? I'm, like, obsessed. Send help. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully, I'm not gonna get a second wind of this virus, and I'm out of quarantine come Sunday. Thank God. I miss my fucking dog. Like, you have no idea how much I miss that. I miss being able to leave this room. Well, I guess I'll just see y'all later in April, hopefully. We'll see.